Today I am going to discuss some common travel video problems that you might have and some ways that I would go about trying to fix those problems. I've actually been traveling non-stop for about 5 years now. I've made travel videos in about 20 countries now, and I've run into pretty much every problem you could along the way. So I hope I have some useful advice for you. Let's go ahead and get started on the first problem, which is something that I see in a lot of travel videos, which is just that there's not enough motion. Everything's too static. And when I say that these videos are too static, I'm not talking about the videos not having enough transitions between the shots. Because if there's one thing people are definitely doing now, it's using plenty of transitions. I'm talking about the feeling of cinematic motion within the shot itself, not between the shots as a transition. Because a lot of aspects of travel tend to be actually fairly static. You know, if you're going to Europe, you're probably seeing a bunch of buildings that are just sitting there, not doing anything. They make great photographs, but it's hard to translate them into a video. It's hard to translate that excitement that you feel when you walk up to the building and you look up at it. The easiest way to film a building, of course, is just to stand back and maybe pan a little bit or zoom in on it, you know, get a close-up on different parts of the building, but that's rarely the most interesting way. Now, a lot of people do time-lapse to bring a building to life, which totally works. I'm not a time-lapse person, so I can't give you a whole lot of advice on that. Drones, of course, are another great way you can add cinematic motion to your footage, but there's plenty of other great tutorials about drones, so I'm not really going to discuss that in this video. You can put the camera on a gimbal and walk around and get some motion that way. I've made a lot of videos about gimbals, so you can check those out and see how that works. And of course, you can always shoot from a moving vehicle. You'll get different kinds of footage from different vehicles. Personally, I love taking open-top bus tours around cities. You can just sit in the bus, point the camera straight up. It's a pretty easy, relaxing, and fun way to get some really interesting shots. You can also bring a static landmark to life by looking for moving subjects. First of all, look for some signs of life around the building. One common thing would be birds. There's almost always birds flying around any large building, and if you zoom in, maybe shoot in slow motion, follow the birds on their path, you can create a great cutaway that will add some life to an otherwise static wide shot. And of course, you can look for human life around the building as well. Older European buildings tend to be built in plazas, so there's huge open spaces where people congregate. Sometimes you'll find kids playing football, artists drawing other people, or even just other tourists taking photographs of each other. So overall, just keep your eyes peeled for the different kinds of life that are happening around static landmarks. Problem number 2, the video has no story. Now, of course, I could spend a really long time talking about how to add story to a travel video, or to any video for that matter, because it's just a really deep and complicated topic. But my purpose here is just to give you a few ideas that are fairly simple to execute. Now, I'm assuming you're filming your own trip here and you want to give a sense of what it was like. So my first tip is film a defined beginning and end to your trip. Now, you don't have to start it right when you first get on the plane. You don't have to start it right when you first arrive at the destination. You can start it when you first open the curtains of the hotel to look out and see the city beyond. You can start it maybe when you first dip your toes in the water at the beach. Anything that gives a sense of a beginning can be the beginning to your travel video. And similarly, anything that gives a sense of closure can be the end to your travel video. I often fall back on showing a person looking out over some sort of a landscape because it almost always works to close almost any travel story. But you can end the video in a number of ways. You can just get creative with it. Anything that signals closure can be the ending of your video. It doesn't have to be when you get back on the plane to go home. The second way to add a story to your travel video is to arrange your clips together in your timeline so that they go from day to night rather than according to when they were taken during your trip. If you have a week-long trip that you filmed, take everything that happened in the daytime, put that stuff together. Everything that happened at sunset, put that stuff together. Everything that happened at night, put that stuff together. Then once you've got everything laid out, you can start cutting stuff up to see what creates the best overall flow for the video. This is a great tip if you didn't plan your shoot at all, because you can create this story in post as long as you have footage that was taken at different times of day. My third tip for adding story to your video would be to add voiceover or narration in post. For instance, you can use a poem.
My child, then put aside your fear. Unbar the door and walk outside.
Now, of course, you want to use a poem that's relevant to your video so it doesn't seem like you're just trying to make it profound by adding random words on top of it. But I leave that to your own artistic discretion. A lot of people also use Alan Watts as voiceover in their videos, to the point where I would say it's kind of a cliche and it's overused now. He's got this great sort of old school telephone effect on his voice in most of his recordings because they were done back in like the 60s, and a bunch of different people post the recordings of him. Now again, I would say don't just randomly pick an Alan Watts speech and throw it against B-roll that you shot on your vacation. Try to find some actual correlation between the words that he's speaking and the video you're making. Or of course you can add your own voice. Here's an idea. You could create sort of a fake phone conversation where somebody's calling you and asking you how your trip went, and then you respond, and in your response you can talk about the different things that you did, and you can use the video of those things that you're doing over your voice talking about those things, and if it's pulled off well, it could come across really creative. Problem number 3, overshooting. This would be when you're shooting way too much throughout the day and you ruin your vacation for yourself and everybody else involved because you don't spend any time away from the camera. Now, I'm going to preface my advice here by saying that I'm assuming you're shooting a vacation and not a trip that you took specifically to go film. I mean, if you went to a place just to capture footage and make the best short film possible, by all means overshoot. Get up at dawn, shoot until late at night, get everything you can, because when you're in the editing booth, you're going to wish you had more footage. But if you're just shooting a vacation and you want to actually enjoy it, here's my simple tip for avoiding overshooting. Shoot only at the time of day when the light is best. That's usually only a few hours a day. Dawn, sunset, dusk. And if you only shoot at those times of day, you'll probably get the most beautiful looking footage overall, so it's kind of a win-win situation. The rest of the day you can just spend enjoying yourself and having a vacation. And a specific tip for if you are on a road trip, like a day trip, a lot of the time when I'm on vacation, I take trips where I go down to a place, I spend the day there, and then I come back. And as I'm looking out the window on the way down, I'm always thinking, man, I want to bring out my camera and I want to shoot everything I'm looking at the moment I see it. But here's something to keep in mind. On the way back, you're going to see the same thing. Ask yourself, is the light going to be better on the way down, or is it going to be better on the way back? And only shoot on the direction of the road trip where the light's going to be the best. That way you can relax on the other half of your drive and not worry about shooting. And problem number 4, having too much gear with you when you're traveling. I'm definitely guilty of this. I carry around a camera, a gimbal, and a bunch of lenses when I'm on vacation. I probably shouldn't be doing that all the time because it leads to me overshooting and spending too much time behind the camera instead of looking at things with my own eyes. Now, that said, here's my advice on how to reduce your gear load throughout the day as you're shooting. My main tip here would be to specifically bring the gear for what you anticipate shooting. Now, this requires some planning, it requires some getting to know your gear, and everybody's gear is different. But what I do, for instance, is during the day when I'm shooting, I don't bring a lot of my prime lenses because I don't need super wide apertures when there's plenty of light. I'll tend to use zoom lenses more, and then I'll go back to my hotel room at some point during the day and I'll switch out my lenses for the night lenses, which would be the primes, and I'll leave the zooms at home. That way, during daytime or during evening, I'm only carrying what I really need. And sometimes you might want to just challenge yourself. Try bringing just one lens for a whole day of shooting. It might force you out of some of your old shooting ruts, and you might get some shots that otherwise you wouldn't even think of. So those are my tips for overcoming your travel video problems. I hope you found some good ones in there. And I also just want to say thank you very much to my subscribers because I just hit 100K. So I will see you next time, and thanks again.